Hey, what's up? This here is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and this here is DaVinci Resolve, and this here is the RødeCaster video. Till last week, these were different worlds, not connectable. This has changed, fundamentally. Hey, and welcome back to my channel. I'm glad to see you again here, and today let me speak about one of my favorite devices, which is indeed the RødeCaster video. I bought the RødeCaster video just shortly after it came out last year, and I use it of course for all the different kind of events that I'm filming, and not only events, even sometimes live recordings of interviews where I need to have some multi-track and some facilities to have a live premix and all these things. So I'm not hiding that the RødeCaster video is indeed an absolute powerhouse that I love using on many occasions. And what I really like about it, it's also the firmware updates that Røde is providing. Now we have here a new firmware update which is solving indeed two of the most burning issues that I have seen on the RødeCaster video. The first one is simply webcam support for a very broad range of webcams. The problem was always that the RødeCaster video was only supporting webcams with uncompressed signals, which is not the case for most of the webcams, because most of the webcams they have a compressed signal. Now drum roll please, because with the new firmware, Røde has opened this up to webcams also with compressed signals, and that makes it very versatile because all of a sudden you can connect a whole plethora of different webcams directly to the RødeCaster video. And for me, this is particularly interesting because I always wanted to connect actually my DJI Osmo Pocket 3 as a webcam on it, because it doesn't have an HDMI output. So let's see what happens if we connect it here. So first, it is recognized correctly as a USB webcam. And then what happens? It is recognized instantly here as a normal camera. And that's something which is amazing, because I can even use now the active track of the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and switch instantly between the two cameras that I have now here installed. And that makes it so much more fun really working with it, because you can really integrate Osmo Pocket 3 and so many other webcams directly into your setup. That's something which is great. Big thank you, Røde, for having made this possible. There is another topic which has been addressed also with this new firmware update. I was always a little bit jealous for all those people who are using the ISO mixers from Blackmagic, the Atoms. Because the Atoms, they were natively writing a Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve project, so that you could simply just record everything in ISO and then later in DaVinci Resolve just re-edit everything without having to start from scratch. And now finally, Røde has listened to us and has created EDL support for the RødeCaster video. EDL is actually nothing else than simply that when there is a recording, an ISO recording with a RødeCaster video, that automatically a timeline file will be created, which can be imported into DaVinci Resolve or other nonlinear editing softwares. To do so, you need to activate on the RødeCaster video the EDL support, which is pretty simple. You just need to open up the RødeCaster app, and then you go into device configuration, and under the tab here of recording, you can not only activate the ISO recording, but as well the EDL export. And this will automatically create then the timeline that you can import into DaVinci Resolve and use it as your file to remix the whole recording. And one thing which is also kind of very impressive, you have now also in the audio section multi-track recording. That means you can simply say that you want to have a pre-fader or post-fader multi-track recording on the hard drive that you have connected. And that means that all the different audio sources that you have connected to the RødeCaster video will be individually recorded as well, and you can make a complete remix of all the different audio sources. This works also over USB. That means you can also connect it over USB, and again you have the pre-fader and post-fader possibility here. Now let me show you how to import an EDL timeline directly into DaVinci Resolve. For this, you just need to open your project, you go into Import and Timeline, and then you can see that on the folder itself you have the timeline OTIO, which is a file which contains actually the whole timeline. You click on Import, and you have a couple of settings that you can set. Here I'm clicking on OK, and then it will give you a notice here that you have 4 of 4 clips which have not been found. I will explain you in a second what this exactly is, but here I go over and voila, here I have my timeline of something that I have been recording before, and as you can see, I have all the different files, all the different camera angles that I've been using. I have it here. So be it the screen recording of my laptop, my first camera angle, my second camera angle. So technically everything is here, including also the transitions. And that's something which is very nice because the transitions are added as non-destructive transitions here. That means I can simply remove them and replace them by a hard cut or by a complete different transition, which doesn't exist on the RødeCaster video. And here you can see as well that I can move perfectly also the cuts back and forth, so I can fine-tune everything. So that's pretty easy. You might have seen that there is no audio file in here, and that's something that for the moment at least doesn't work. You need to import the audio file by yourself and put it on the timeline, but that's not a problem because anyway everything is synchronized. You just drag it on and it will fit. The other thing is here when it comes to the overlays that I was using, because I was adding a couple of overlays here, and as you can see that these are exactly the 4 files which couldn't have been found during the import. And the reason is very simple. They are not stored on the project file itself on the SSD that I was using, but they are stored separately. That means you need to import them as well, relink them, and then you have also your overlays with the different transitions that were used, and you can fine-tune also the transitions. So if you import them manually and relink them, then you have here as well all the tracks with the overlays with the different fade-ins, fade-outs, and you can perfectly rework them as well, just as you need it. That's really a game changer in my opinion for the RødeCaster video, and it makes this beautiful device so much more flexible and versatile. If I could dream a little bit and if I could have a wish list for Rode, well, then there is one thing which is missing, and I know Rode, you will not be able to implement this over a firmware update, but still, please bring out a RødeCaster video which has 4K support, because that's something which is crucial in the meanwhile for my productions, and I would use a RødeCaster video so much more often if finally there would be also a version with a 4K support, ISO recording, and all the amazing features that you have built in now in this version here. Well, many thanks for watching. I hope that you liked the video. If you liked it, then please don't hesitate, of course, to subscribe, to share, to like, to comment, and I'm happy to see you in the next video again. Take care.